In his younger days, Kern began to work in the U.S. government and finally ended up being one of their top secret agents for very special projects. He told me how the Secret Service would escort him around wherever he went when he was on the really big cases. I became really close to Kern and his wife and also their daughter, who was rather a goofy girl. Kern told me so many far-out stories about World War II and his involvement, along with a lot of top-secret stuff that I will not be repeating ever. Well, maybe someday. He also elaborated to me about the many treasures which Hitler stole and stashed away during the war. He had a painting on his wall he showed me of one of the places where tons of stolen gold bullion were dumped and later would be retrieved by the Nazis, but the Nazis were soon to find out that the lake was miles deep and the bottom was thick and murky mud, so the gold was never found. Lou told me she knows exactly where the gold is, and there it will stay. That is, unless we want to get it, which is another story altogether. At the time I first knew Kern and his wife, I was not aware of the special documentary instruments I would be dealing with in the future. I couldn't see it at the time, but the adventure of my life was beginning to unwind as I was learning what very few people would ever know. As I was considering all that was taking place in my life at this time, and what had to be done to accomplish what I could only imagine, I was trying to see how I could make something so far out become a reality in my life. As I creatively thought about how to put together a plan of action for the longest time, it was one night while I was rather discouraged about my financial situation, knowing I would have to use my credit cards to survive, as I had built up the greatest credit for more than 30 years, that I had a vision appear right in front of me. It was just like watching The View, as it took up the whole wall in front of my little bedroom as I sat watching from my bed. The appearance of this so-called apparition manifested so clearly and began to tell a story. There was no sound, but as I watched, I simply relaxed and tuned in to what I was seeing. Rebazar, Paul and Yabel first appeared, and just like a stage play, were standing in the center of the picture. Then, all three of them did a slight bow and motion with their arms that the show would now begin. As they stepped aside, there was another screen in back of them, which came forward and took up the whole picture. Just like a movie reel, the show began. I started to laugh out loud at this whole idea and wished I had some popcorn as I watched. Within this vision, I was now seeing all the characters I have just mentioned so far, and they were bopping around like the Keystone Cops, even bumping into each other as this experience was showing me their demeanor. This scene went on for a few moments as these people seemed to get into everything that was within their reach. Then from behind a side curtain came a tall blonde fellow who looked like a teenager, but I could tell that there was something so much more to him, as he did not at all seem immature. I watched as he came up to the goofy bunch, and as he began to speak to them, they slowed down a bit, then finally stopped all the horsing around they were doing and began to patiently listen to him. I was perceiving that he was explaining something life-changing to the group, as they were listening very attentively. Then he stopped talking for a moment as several of the people in the group began discussing amongst themselves, then began to laugh and soon gestured to the tall blonde fellow as though he were off his rocker. Again, the tall blonde fellow began to lay out his discourse to them, and once again the others listened closely. This time everyone seemed to have gotten the idea and everyone became agreeable. Then The tall, blond fellow pulled out a large envelope from inside his shirt and revealed to everyone what he had. And all of them were very surprised, as they all became very excited and danced around with each other. Then Rebazar, Paul, and Yabel once again came to the center of the picture, did their little bow and waved as the vision faded. And I was soon back with my dull and uninteresting senses of the physical body. Oh boy, I thought out loud, what is this all about? Then I heard a voice say, it's all about you and your adventures. Dwayne, as the person speaking began to laugh with several others I could hear with him. I sat for the longest time and put all of what I saw together in a creative fashion, along with all the characters involved. It hit me like a big smack on the head that I was the tall, blond fellow, as I always feel like a big kid. And the other characters were all the people I have come to know who are part of the framework, who are supposed to help me get what I have decided to do and get completed. Well, it all seemed so easy in my little mind and my really big imagination. But I was to find out that it would take me years to finally cross the finish line of what I was now deciding to do. For me, it always has to be something so unbelievable of a task, to where the average person would not even dare to consider it. But as I looked over everything, I was actually excited, because it was all so death-defying. And what did I really have to lose from it? I am the risk-taker, and this is how my life is. So I must do this no matter what. And so I did, as I moved forward with it. As I am relating this episode in my life, all of what I have chosen is something I know I must do for me to become me, so to speak. And as time and events have come to where they are now, I am so glad I took the risk. From all the people I have tried to share what I have experienced with Rebazar and the real guides, it has been only a few who have survived what they have decided, as all the others have so nicely done themselves in. The human consciousness, the personal self, is the hardest to deal with, as it becomes so self-convinced about its arrogance toward being grateful about anything. And so it is with all those who I have sincerely tried to educate, and taking as much time as needed, yet they drift away back to their dreary lives of boring contentment, as they are too lazy to discover something wonderful. Here is where it takes a person with such a creative imagination to see what the social structure has created as a solidness to nowhere. Peter Pan flies because he can see himself doing it. And so when the public imagines that their political bosses will do something amazing for them, they will always be disappointed, because it will never happen on the earth, nor will peace and goodwill toward others, because there will always be those who are far too immature to develop the real courage to sidestep any personal gain they can have over standing and being in real truth. From each level of life, every real position can work for anyone, from the earthly life in the business world all the way into the all is. Once a person has the real education, real guidance, and a true intent to stand in real truth. There is still a huge confusion about the whole of life, because of the old elementary standards of spiritual paths, education, and religion, where one is supposed to be a certain way and give up things they have come to know in their life. The whole of life is already complete, like the sun shining, yet the all is continues to expand its own awareness of itself. From the human position, with the mind and senses, a person without a real education and real experience will not be able in the slightest to comprehend what I am implying and presenting. This would be like rocket science to a second grader. So each person must decide if they will go the course and learn something most of the public and the world will never know. To so many, what I am presenting is a fantastic dream, as all life is a dream, and for anyone to become a part of the whole of life, more so than just a speck on the round world somewhere in deep dark space, they must be willing to go beyond their conventionalized standards of being educated. While my relationship with Kern and Layla was going on, I was also telling my friend and seer, Miss Kathy Thomas of Idaho, Book 4 of the Adventure Is series, The 5 Waves of Kathy Thomas in the Adventures of Rebazar Tars, about everything I was doing. During this time, I was going through my different phases of adjusting myself back to something more balanced from the huge onslaught I had taken on while I had the Rod of Power from 2001 to 2003. Miss Kathy was helping me through so much of it, as she could see that I was constantly getting better, as she also saw in the future how what Kern and Layla knew would have a great bearing on my life. At the time, I was not aware of what would continue to unfold and become what it has today. It was during the later part of 2005 that Layla finally passed on to the other side from old age and exhaustion. I met her one evening as I was on the real side of Huntington Beach. She was strolling along the sand as she came up to me. "Hello, Dwayne. You are really going to like the surprise I have for you. All of the people I have known, I can trust you the most, as Rebazar has shown me this, so the gift for a great future is all yours. I have met your friend Kathy, and she will confirm everything also. Andrew, who has what will soon be yours, has always been a bit of a stinker and con man, and that is why the deal with black-hearted Wony DeMauro and that totally crooked dweebed Anders never happened. The real guides want you to have the treasure I have known about. There are also more goodies hidden somewhere, and you will have fun discovering that in the future as you go on your new adventurous quest. I will be around from time to time to help you out and lead you to the right people for all of this to eventually happen on the earth. It has been a long road for all of us, but you are going to have the most fun of all, so I will see you again," she said, as Rebazar and Paul walked up and waved to me while they escorted her off. When Layla passed over, her husband Kern became very devastated, as he was your typical earthly Einstein sort of fellow, even looked like him, as he suddenly felt all alone. Days later, he left in a very mysterious manner with his other daughter, who was unknown to a lot of people, because she was from a former marriage of his, as she lived somewhere else in the U.S. When his former daughter heard from him that his wife Layla died, she came rushing out to California and grabbed him, and he has not been seen ever since. For the longest time, I tried to find him, but even his California daughter, who Kern lived with, did not know where he went. I imagined he may have slipped into the Bermuda Triangle. One night I decided to ask Rebazar about him. "I know there is something here, sir, and I need some help to figure it out. Where did Kern go?" I asked. "Kern and Layla had their life together, and now she is here with me on this side. She is going to play a big part in what you will be discovering, but this adventure for you will take years to accomplish, so pay attention, as Ursula will help you a lot. Kern is not listening to us or watching his dreams, and he left with his other daughter to be with someone he loves. He doesn't want to be found or any part of what he once knew because it reminds him of Layla. For now, he is rather devastated, and so you must continue on and explore, and I will assist you from this side, and so will Yabel and Paul. This real-life adventure is far too big to tell you all you need to know, as it will unfold as time and events produce themselves. You will learn things on the earth that very few people will ever come to know. Keep writing your books. They are helping you to recover. Your future is set with us assisting you. You will see, just like Kathy has told you, you will be fine and we will always be with you. So have fun at what you are doing, he said, as I listened, and then he faded away. That is some of new book 5 of the Adventure Is series by Dwayne the Great Writer. Give you an idea about some of the stuff that Dwayne is presenting in the Adventure Is series books. There are projects that everyone can become involved with. At the present, the Total Universal Rainforest, and there'll be the All Solar Research Vessels, and the Nations United Universal University, and the homeschooling. It's up to you to decide if you want to check out the new presentation, The Wonderful Worldwide Educators. I'll be on in a week from today on this Blog Talk Radio at 3 p.m. See ya.